Welcome to another DK Custom Products video. I'm Dwayne, this is Kevin, and today we're going to address an email we got from a friend of ours. And a lot of it has to do with tuning and fuel management, and we're just going to discuss that email today.
Okay. Like Dwayne said, a friend of ours wrote in an email, and at first when we were reading the email, we thought it was something he had written. And then I'm like maybe a quarter to halfway through it, and I realized Kevin did not write this email. It was like he copy and pasted it from somewhere. This is someone else's write-up that they did, and he's asking us what our thoughts are on it. And we can't go through the whole thing. As you can see, we can't go through the whole thing in this video. It'll be a 45-minute video. But I mean, there's just a whole list of statements here that are stated as if they're, biblical truths. And some of them are way off.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where there's a lot of facts here. There are a lot of facts, but some people value some of these facts more than other facts that are out there. And and
there's some things that just are not true.
Some things are not true, but a lot of it is some people have an incentive to believe a certain thing, right, and that's just what it is.
The main gist of it is about tuning, and you can highlight on there, I think they put in all bold capital print, tuning person.
Yeah.
And what it is, when we went from calculators to computers, and I think before calculators there was, what do they call that thing? The abacus or something?
Where you slide the numbers over?
Yeah. And then the electronic calculators, and then the computers. There's always people who sort of hold out and don't move with the times.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is that a computer can do a better job than most humans most of the time.
Right.
Okay? And back about, 8 or 10 years ago, tuners came out with what is called an Autotune function, where where the computer will let you ride how you normally ride.
Mm-hmm. From here, you will select Autotune. To enable Autotune, select Enable Autotune.
Speed, shift, hills, heat, everything how you normally ride, where you normally shift, and then the computer can look at how you ride and adjust the tune to be ideal for your particular bike that you're riding on, and for your particular fuel that you're using, for your particular heat that you're riding in, and for where you shift, for all the things that are unique to you. And the computer makes those adjustments to the tune.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what does that do for all the Dyno'd operators out there? For all the people doing dyno tunes, it's sort of like
kind of undercuts their work.
Makes them irrelevant.
Yeah.
Right? That being said, there are good dyno tuners out there.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It's just like you go to get your hair cut. They're not going to tell you that they're going to give you a bad haircut. You're just under the assumption they're going to, they're not going to admit they're not the best out there. In fact, they're going to portray that you're about to get a really good haircut.
Yeah.
But you come out, hair all gapped up, bike not running good, and you're back at square one. And that's not all dyno tuners are that way.
And some people give really good haircuts.
Right. And some people can put a really good tune in your bike.
Right. But every good dyno tune person didn't start out good.
No.
And they tuned hundreds, probably thousands of bikes with a less than ideal tune before they got good, because it is a skill.
Right. And it's worth noting, nobody's perfect. Everybody has an off day. There's a lot of room for error in dyno tuning. A lot.
Yeah. So, the best dyno tuner in the world can have a bad day, or can be preoccupied and make a mistake. So, We actually did a report on tuning options back, I don't know, 8-10 years ago. And we will put a link to that report down below where it covers everything we're talking about in this video and more. But the main gist of this email from Kevin was that some people who are predisposed to dyno tuning are saying that the dyno tune is the only way to go. There's no such thing as auto-tune. They said that over and over again several times in their posts, that there's no such thing as auto-tune. When in fact, you can look right here, you put up on the screen, the PowerVision does have an auto-tune feature.
Riding the motorcycle how you normally would on a typical riding session, the Autotune will learn the changes it needs to make based on your riding style. After you have done this, select Exit to end the Autotune process. If you would like to accept the changes that were made during your Autotune session, just select Export Learned. From here, it's going to apply these changes to one of the custom tune slots. Select Continue.
One of the greatest benefits of the FuelPack FP3 is the Autotune feature.
When I've discussed with some of these people who want to keep the art of dyno tuning alive, when I've discussed with them, what do you mean there's no auto-tune? It says auto-tune right here. And they go, yeah, but what happens when you, it doesn't automatically tune your bike. What it does, you have to ride it, and then at the end of the ride, you have to manually upload the changed tune to the bike, so it's not automatic. So you have to push a few buttons to get the computer-generated tune to go on the bike, so it's not automatic, and that's the reason for not calling it an auto-tune.
So their debate is it should be called a semi-auto tune.
Right. It's not a full automatic. It's a semi-auto. So, but the auto-tune does work very, very well for 90% of the cases, and people are just doing the stage one. Oh, there's another thing that was mentioned in that email that says all bikes are lean from the factory. Yes, from 2007 forward, Sportsters and twin cams are lean from the factory. The M8s are not lean from the factory. So to do a stage one on an M8 doesn't really need a tune. We can put up a dyno chart showing right here that with a tune, with a dyno tune, the best possible tune on an M8 with the stage one, there was a small increase in performance. But they're not, the M8s are not too lean. We'll put up here a whole video on that subject, that the M8s are not too lean. So that was one thing that was false in the email. But getting back to most people, when they're doing a stage 1, 2, or 3 upgrade, are going to be able to get a very good bass tune, starting tune, that was originally done by someone competent on a dyno tuner, on a dyno, and they tuned it by hand, a human being, and they came up with a bass tune. But every bike's a little bit different. Everybody rides a little bit different. So after you have that bass tune in your bike, you use the auto-tune feature, preferably in a PowerVision or maybe an FP3. You use that auto-tune feature and you get that bike dialed in for you. Can you do the same thing with a human being doing it? Yes, but it's going to cost an extra $400, $500, $600, maybe even $1,000. And it's only going to be better than what the computer did if it's the 1 in 100 dyno tuners who's really truly competent.
Yeah.
And he's having a good day. And he's not having a bad day.
And again, we're not crapping on dyno tuners. There are some good ones out there.
And you have to have a good dyno tuner to come up with the bass maps that are used to auto tune off of.
Exactly right.
But for me, all 3 of my bikes have PowerVisions on them. They all started out with a dyno tune generated base map for the features I have on that bike. I then rode the bike in Autotune to get it dialed in for my specific bike, okay, for the way I ride and for the uniquenesses of my bike. If I took any one of those bikes in to a competent dyno tuner, could he eke out maybe 1, 2, or 3% better power for me?
Sure.
Probably, but it would cost me between $500 and $1,000. The Autotune doesn't cost me anything. It comes free with the tuner, right? Now, the minute, say I get a dyno tune, the minute that I change my exhaust or change my air cleaner or go from summer riding with summer blend fuel to winter riding with winter blend fuel,
you got to reschedule another dyno session.
Right, and pay the money all over again, or I can do Autotune, which doesn't cost anything and is going to give me 95 to 99% as good as the best dyno tune out there, and is going to give me 200 or 300% better than the average dyno tuner out there.
See, I think the irony of this is, you got the people that think dyno tuners, that's the end all be all, that's the only option. And you have the guys that think the aftermarket fuel management devices like the Power Vision are the absolute best option. But when you debate the details, everyone's in agreement. A dyno tune is if you can get it done correctly, is the best option. If you can get it done correctly. The dyno tune guys, they don't debate what the Power Vision is capable of. They know what it's capable of. They just don't think that it's as good as a really good dyno tune, and it's not. But a really good dyno tune is not an option for a lot of people. You or I, we can't go get a really good dyno tune within 300 miles of where we're sitting right now. We just can't. That's not an option for us.
Yeah, because it's illegal for a Harley dealership to do a good dyno tune.
Right.
A good dyno tune, by definition, is going to violate the EPA standards.
Absolutely right.
And Harley mothership has cracked down on the dealerships. They cannot do a good dyno tune. So that means you have to find an indie shop where there's a good dyno tuner, 1 out of 100, maybe 1 out of 100.
Yeah.
And they have to be having a good day. And then you got to pay them $500 to $1,000. And then if you change your bike, you got to pay them another $500 to $1,000.
Right. To make a difference that's arguably indiscernible a lot of times.
It'll show up on a dyno sheet. It'll show up to people who are racing.
Yeah.
Where tenths and hundredths of a second make a difference. It's not going to show up for most people in their daily riding.
And a common misconception that a lot of the dyno tuners like to perpetuate is that the auto tune is just a gimmick, that it's somewhat impossible to tune the bike that way on an open road situation. Right here he says, good results can be obtained by tuning on the road if you have a large stretch of open road where full throttle runs through the RPM range can be made many times, as well as very hilly areas to apply load to the bike. Now, in my opinion, I think that real world situations are going to tune your bike much better than being on a dyno machine with some guy just raw dogging the bike, seeing how much performance is there.
Right, because
to
you
me
don't ride that way.
Yeah, that's to me is irrelevant to the way you ride.
The bike should be tuned for how you ride. And I will admit, when I first was using the Autotune on the Power Vision, 10 plus years ago, I found myself riding differently than I normally ride, because I'm going, I got to really get on it and try and duplicate what the guys were doing on the dyno, wide open throttle. And then I realized I need to ride how I ride and let the computer see how I ride and make adjustments for how I ride, not for some theoretical way that I don't even ride.
Right.
So I've had really, really good results. Now, I will tell you, this is just a little side note here. If you want the best tune on your bike, the best, better than any dyno tuner can do, get a target tune. I have a target tune on my Sportster. For years, I had just the Power Vision. I actually had my Power Vision for grins and giggles dyno tune once, and it was worse than my Can Map because the guy was not a good tuner. But he did it for free, so I guess you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
But I ran it for years. I knew how that bike ran. And then the Target Tune came out where you pick the AFR you want,
Mhm.
and then real time with wideband sensors, it keeps your AFR exactly where it is in every millisecond.
Absolutely right.
And I put that on there. I cannot believe how much more power I had everywhere. And my miles per gallon actually went up 4 miles per gallon. You'll say, well, you had a bad tune before. I had a pretty good tune. I was beating stage 3 street lights left and right with it. But when I installed that Target Tune, it was like a different bike, because no human on a dyno or in riding Autotune can predict every possible scenario of throttle position, load, RPM, heat, fuel, but the Target Tune does it real time. Now it's expensive. It's an extra $550. And I would have never done it. I was perfectly happy with my Sportster before. But if you're going to spend extra money, get a Target Tune.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it makes, there's not a lot of people who've gotten it, relatively speaking. For every 500 or 1,000 people who have a Power Vision and are perfectly happy with it, there's maybe one person with the Target Tune. But everybody who has a Target Tune has had the same experience I've had. They're absolutely amazing. Now you go, okay, if they're absolutely amazing, how come you don't have one on your Softail and on your Tri-Glide? You just have it on your Sporty. Well, because they cost $500.
I knew you were going to say that.
$50, and I'm already well pleased with the performance on those other two bikes.
Right.
Now, if I somehow needed more performance or wanted more, I would in a heartbeat go with the Target Tune edition rather than upgrade the cams. So I just was going to do a little side note, but that ended up being quite long. But the thing about it is, it's an amazing, amazing feature. The computer can do things better, but the computer always needs to start with the person.
Absolutely.
So the Power Vision needs a good bass tune to work off of. That good bass tune happens from a human being who had a bike like yours with similar stuff, air cleaner and exhaust on a dyno, and came up with a good bass map that you can then auto-tune off of.
Right. So just to, again, reiterate, we're not saying don't get the bike dyno tuned. In fact, if you have a means to get the bike dyno tuned by a reputable shop, go that route. It's going to give you the best result possibly. But if you want the safe bet, just get the Power Vision. I mean,
or FP3.
Or the FP3, yeah. I mean, if you're not going past the stage 1, the FP3 is more than adequate.
Mm-hmm.
More than adequate. But if you want to build, beyond a stage 1, our recommendation is the Power Vision. And if you want 100% optimal results, add the Target Tune.
Yeah, like I said, if you're doing a stage 4 or a 131 kit or something like that, I would get it dyno tuned.
Absolutely.
Because there's too many uniquenesses, and you're probably not going to get your hands on a good base map to do an auto tune off of. So if you're really hopping off the bike and you put a lot of different components, you're probably not going to find a good bass tune. You probably have to do one good dyno tune. Once you have that good dyno tune, you can't do a dyno tune without a TTS or a Power Vision or an FP3, right? Once you have that good base, you can always do auto tunes after that.
Absolutely.
So anyway, hope that answers your question on what we think, Kevin, about that. We thought it would be interesting for a lot of other people to hear. Again, down in the description below, we go over all the options on tuning, what the pros and cons are of all of them. We go actually more into depth than we did right here, because right here we were just talking about Power Visions, TTS, FP3s, dyno tuning and such. but there's a lot more to the tuning. So look at that report that we have linked down below. And I know we said about a year ago we're going to do a video of this report, which we still haven't done, and we need to get that done sooner rather than later. But that's it for today.
That's it. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up.
Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. It helps us out. It doesn't cost you anything.
Hit that notification bell so you'll be updated when our next video comes out.
And leave comments down below.
We know you're
Unless
going to.
you're a dyno tuner and you now hate us.
Yeah.